What's going on, you good humans? Welcome to guest episode 218 of Good Humans podcast with a guy who's been on this podcast before, and his name's Harry Garside. This guy is an absolute legend, and he's been through some pretty big things over the last couple of years. So he's an Olympian. He got a bronze medal at the Olympics back in Tokyo. He then had a bit of a shocker, I guess he would even describe it as, in Paris, and didn't sort of reach the goals that he set out to achieve. But it was really cool to see how he kind of overcame that mentally, how he took it on in the media, and yeah, how he really just showed that, we can't win everything. And he really kept a great mindset from that. He also got, I think it was second in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. But then when he got out of the jungle, he was arrested when he landed back in Sydney over a domestic violence charge, which was all made up and just absolute bogus. But the media went deep with it. He got his name dragged through the mud, and then he got acquitted of everything, which is really cool to see, the sort of person he is and how he overcame that really challenging time, which I can't imagine anyone would go through with an easy, mindset of being accused of something so dreadful. But yeah, to come out the other side, to still have such a positive attitude and yeah, a really beautiful story to go with it. It was really interesting. So it was really great to catch up with Harry. I bloody love this guy. I'm sure you guys are going to really get a lot out of this episode. So if you do like it, please make sure you hit that like or subscribe button. Give us a 5-star rating. Share it with a friend. Let somebody know about this episode because I know it's going to help so many people with all the great stories that Harry shares in this one. Also, make sure you check out my new book coming out October 1st, The 1% Good Club, all about giving 1% of your day to your mental health. You can find in the show notes a link to grab it pre-sale, and anything on Booktopia will also get a signed copy, anything that's pre-sale. So go check that out. Really appreciate everyone who supports it. You can also find out more about the wellbeing workshops I run over at thegoodhumanfactory.com. You can grab some of our merch, use the code podcast to get a big 25% off. And yeah, would love if you could support any of the work that I'm doing. That's enough from me. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Good Humans Podcast. Again, Harry Garside. Welcome to Good Humans Podcast, Harry Garside. How you going, brother?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. We are finally doing it in person.
I know. A bit of a backstory. So Harry was episode 51 of Good Humans Podcast. I think it was right after you'd done Tokyo and you were just a media hot person,
Yeah, I actually want to apologise because the world was coming at me so quickly at that time. I feel like I was just getting asked to do so much, and I don't think I knew how to handle it. And I haven't watched back that podcast, but I just remember I was in the back of my car, and I just remember there was just so much happening in my life, and I don't feel like I gave it the justice that your podcast deserves. So grateful to be back, mate. Hopefully this one's a little bit better.
No, yeah, I'll give a bit of. I mean, do not feel bad at all. Like I said, you just got a bronze medal at the Olympics, the first for Australia in 20 years or something crazy. And I can imagine how many people, and you've got this just random dude that's like, oh, I've got this podcast, do you want to jump on? So you're probably overcommitted to saying yes, but props to you to actually not cancelling and going, you know what, I'll just do it in the back of my car so I can, get the story out there. So don't feel bad. But since then, we've connected in weird ways at like an Apple event and a few different things, and I guess become somewhat mates. So it's cool to get to sit down here in person at your beautiful little apartment here in Bondi and get to hear what's been happening. It's been 3 years. There's been so many things that have happened, many ups, many downs, and everything else in between. So excited to catch up what's been going on. But I would love to still go back through a bit of the story to sort of catch back up for people who didn't hear the other episode. But the first question I always open with is, what are you grateful for right now, today in life?
Ooh, I'm grateful for my own space. I think something that I've really struggled with throughout my life is being by myself. And currently my housemate's away. He's in Hawaii with his partner. And the last week or so, I've had a lot of free time. And usually I'd hate it. But I think the first few days, I was like, oh my God, I hate this. But then as the week's gone on, I've become better and better and better. So I think right now I'm grateful for enjoying my own company for the first time in a long time.
It's hard sometimes. I can see the apartment's very clean. I know you are a big making sure everything's clean. I've heard somewhere that you always make sure your bed's made, even at hotels. I'm like,
yes, I don't know what it is, but I think because I've got quite a manic mind, I think to have my space clean, because my mind's messy, it just makes me feel a little bit more, I don't know, stable.
It lets the mind spill out into the mess in the real world. So let's do a bit of a highlight. Last time we spoke, I think you just come back from Tokyo, so you just won a bronze medal, you'd won gold at Com Games in Australia, all this, and your profile had kind of just started, I think, really everyone started to get to know who Harry Garside was around that time. So let's go back to the start and just give me a bit of an update for people who might not have heard of your name. I'm sure most have, but tell me what your childhood was like up until high school and finding boxing.
Yeah, my childhood was like, it's so hard to know what was good and what was bad, because I think your reality is just what you make of
Yeah.
it, right? And I think I had many great moments in my childhood. I am the youngest of three boys. My two older brothers are 3 and 5 years older than me. And they're good big brothers, but just like any like big brothers, I think there was some moments where they tested me, they challenged me, I think I idolized them a fair bit too, just naturally being my older brothers. And the way that I looked at them was like they were fearless. And I felt quite insecure as a man, just being, or as a boy, just being smaller than them. They look like they wanted to do the most hectic things, like ride down the bike, no hands, ride down the hill, sorry, no hands. They would always be fighting with each other. And I look back at myself and I think I was just so scared compared to them. And I think that was partially the reason why I started boxing at the age of 9. So I started boxing in a sense to prove that I was more like my brothers and my dad. And then obviously fell in love with the sport for many different reasons. And I think my schooling life, like I always struggled at school a fair bit, but in a sense, like I think my heart's in the right place. But I do believe that because of my brothers and because they were quite loud and rambunctious and naughty, I feel like I entered school and played the role of my older brothers. And I feel like I was just being them rather than being myself. And I think most of my schooling life, I feel like there would be many people who went to school with me and would see me in the media now going like, this guy's full of shit, just because I'm a different person.
I reckon the same. Like, I've got a business called the Good Human Factory, and
Yeah.
let me tell you, I definitely have not been the sort of person I am my whole life. And I was talking to my dad about last night. I'm staying in Sydney at the moment. My dad lives here, and we're catching up, just watching TV, and I was like, oh, it's crazy how far I've come, but like, fuck, I definitely wasn't like that. And he's like, yeah, you used to be an asshole. I was like, it's cool to show though that you can change, and that's the
Yes.
whole point of life, is to evolve and change, and be self-aware, to be like, you know what, I'm not happy the way that I'm showing up in these paces of my life. I'll change. And we're speaking off air just then about the importance of having people around you to call you out on that stuff. And I had my dad would call me out on it, but I never listened to him at that age. So what's been your journey to having the humility to take on advice from people? And was it like that for you in that young age, or did you push back with your ego as well?
I definitely pushed back. My ego is quite strong and still is quite strong. I do have a pretty decent relationship with my ego. I'm hyper aware of it. But I
How
did.
about in those teen years up until 20?
Yeah,
You still were?
I probably really struggled with it. And I think when I was my ugliest version of myself, I think it was when I was the most insecure. And I didn't want to, I was like locking down the part of myself who I was authentically. I know I had this massive armor on, and then I would be mean to people to hide that really soft version of myself. And then around 16, I had this foundation called the Reach Foundation enter my life. They're a massive part of my story.
I was gonna bring this up.
And I started as a participant on the day one in front of all my mates, and it was a bit of just a turning point in my life. And then I eventually became a crew member. I was with them for 4 years, working with young people myself. And I just think they gave me a space to explore myself, slowly take down that mask and that armor, and I guess show the world who I was. And that didn't happen overnight. I still found myself going back to my high school mates and being that, because I think slowly but surely I integrated the things that I learned from Reach. And that even still now, there is moments in my life where I can feel myself being a bit more insecure and that armor comes up, because it does serve you. The armor you've created works. That's the reason why we wear it.
Survival, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I feel like the older that I'm getting, the more that I'm aware of that armor and the mask, and I think I can pick those environments where I've just got to be conscious of this, because this is going to come out in this moment. But more and more now, I find myself being way more authentic with myself, and then in that, I think I'm way less like fighty or like
You don't have to
intense.
defend yourself. It's like, I am who I am.
Yes.
If you want to think that way of me, I know who I am.
Yeah.
And it's bloody hard. And we're going to catch up to some stuff that you've gone through over the last couple of years where, your character is put in the limelight. And when it's untrue in the media, it's just fucked. I remember watching that, and we will touch on it as we go through sort of the chronological of the last few years. But yeah, to stay strong to your character, and yeah, fuck, I'm excited to talk about that part because I want to commend you on the fact that I think if that was many other people, it would have been a different outcome based on, I know you touched on, having suicidal thoughts through that stage and all these challenges. The strength and the growth that you'd had before that moment, I think, equipped you to deal with that as good, if not better, than anyone that I could imagine in that situation.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I think I think naturally just your true essence comes out in really intense moments. And I think, I don't know, there's been some moments even in my childhood where I'll never forget this one moment. It sounds so small, but I remember there was a fight. We were about under 15s in basketball, and there was a fight, and then we ended up going to the tribunal, and the person from our basketball club, they said, everyone plead not guilty, and then they won't give you any suspension. And then I was like really thinking about what happened in that altercation, and I was like, I was wrong. Like I shouldn't have acted like that. Like I felt that, and I remember everyone else in the team said not guilty because that's what they were told to do, and I stood up and I said guilty. And everyone was like, and I just remember like morally, I didn't believe I did the right thing in that fight, in that altercation, and I owned it. And I felt so good, and I got the 2-week suspension, which no one else did. But I owned the fact that I don't think I acted the way that I wanted to and how I should have. And I can recognize, not in every moment, but definitely some really intense moments, like when there's been really big family issues, or I never forget when my grandma died and my mum got the call. Just like what happens in those moments is, I think, a little bit closer to who you really are. And I'll even never forget, there was a moment where I didn't act the way that I wanted to. I always thought that I would be the savior. And I'll never forget, my mate jumped off this bridge and he backflipped, and we're all on the piss that day. It was grand final day. And he backflipped and he come up and everyone was cheering, and then he started sinking. And we thought he died, and I always thought that I'd be the person to jump in. It was about 10 meters, right? And I froze, you know. So I always thought that I'd be the person to jump in, and I didn't. And I think it's just being aware that in the most intense moments, like that time that I was arrested, I think you really find out who you are. And I'm really grateful. I think that was a moment in my life where I become a man, and I had to look after my family, and I had to look after my mum and dad, and I had to look after my brothers and my community, because they haven't been put in the public spotlight, but then in a sense, in that, they were dragged into it as well, which was quite intense.
Yeah, far out. Thank you for sharing that. And we will catch back up if you're all right to touch on it
Of course.
We get sort of through the chronological. But I want to touch on that too, this idea, you know, when we're in this heightened situation, when, you know, we're in this fight or flight mode, cortisol's flooding through our body, adrenaline, our IQ drops and we can't make the decisions as normal. And I just love how you mentioned losing your grandma, because I had a very similar situation when my pop passed away, where I did something that, upon reflection, I write about it in my book actually, I'm like, I was wrong. So when my pop passed away, I spoke to Chloe, my older sister, on the phone, and I was like bawling my eyes out, struggling, and she just sounded very calm. And I sent her a message like the next day over something, just being like, can't believe you weren't even upset that Pop has passed away. And I didn't realise that clearly she was, but it was just a moment where she wasn't crying. And she'd also, and then the other thing that happened was, she's like, I'm not going to come home for the funeral. And I had so much judgment. She was in Bali at the moment, but I didn't realise she was in Bali spending a week with Paul because they just had a miscarriage and she was trying to deal with that. So like this, not miscommunication, my judgment. And she told me a few weeks later, she's like, that really hurt me, like you judging me like that, because clearly I'm sad. And then I had to second guess myself. Am I doing something wrong here? And she obviously wasn't, but that's just that idea of when we're in this heightened situation, we do stuff wrong, but then owning it is so important. I said to her, and I wrote about it in the book, like, I learned this lesson, and I hope you can learn this lesson of when we're in these heightened moments, we sometimes say and do things that we're not proud of, or that we wouldn't do if we're in a fully state of mind. So yeah, I'm sure you can relate to that part of the story.
Of course, it's quite interesting, like that fight, flight, freeze. Like, and I think it's the most animalistic moment that we can be in, right? And sometimes it feels like, well, it's proven that your frontal lobe kind of shuts off, right? And you're in this state of like, that's why I must admit I do love combat, because it puts you naturally in that fight, flight, and more so fight, you know, reaction. And it's a beautiful moment, but it's beautiful, and it's like made me aware of so many things and learn a lot about myself. But sometimes it's like, it just feels like my body's happening when I'm inside that ring. And I think there's obviously moments that I can think and I am aware, but a lot of the time it's just happening. So I think sometimes we need to cut ourselves some slack when we don't act to how we want to, especially when we're so heightened, because I think sometimes we don't even have control of it, you know?
And it happens to everyone. And like, people would see you'll be like, he gets in the ring and, you know, boxes the gnarliest people you could ever face. Like, he must be fine when big things happen. But sure, in the boxing ring, I mean, I'm sure you do have fear. And if you don't, you're probably an idiot in the boxing ring. But you put yourself outside of something that you're kind of comfortable in, and it becomes like terrifying. Like, I was watching Shane Warne's memorial last night because Jacko Warne, a friend of mine, just released his podcast, and it came up after Mark Howard talking about the biggest privilege he's ever had and the scariest thing that he's ever had to do, even though, he speaks in front of thousands all the time, was interview a bunch of the old cricketers for the memorial. And like he talks about before getting on stage how nervous he was and everyone else was, and it's like we all, even though you can be the best at the world at what you do, feel that fear when a moment arises.
I think it's beautiful though. I love it. I love that. I think it, for me anyway, it just like makes you feel like you're alive and you're in your body, and for a moment the world matters, you know, and in some weird way, like not saying the world doesn't matter in arbitrary moments, but I think those moments where I'm in my body and I'm here, because I don't believe in a God, and I think this world sometimes is quite meaningless. We're just operating and we're consuming and we're just existing, but then in those moments you're so heightened and it means something in that, and it's so rich in humanness, which I really like.
And it's present. That's like competitions and those raw moments where you feel alive. Like I was listening to John Florence on Rich Roll's podcast recently, and he was like, "You're so good. You're this free surfer and you're like the chillest dude ever." But then he started talking about, but I love competition because I learn so much about myself when I'm in that situation. He's like, so quickly I evolve in these heightened situations of competition, and then I can bring it into other parts of my life. And he's like, I don't get that anywhere else but when I'm about to surf a heated pipeline for the world title. He's like, as scary as it is, he's like, wow, I learned so much more about myself.
Hell yeah.
And you can take it on.
For the last 80 months, I've done one challenge a month of things that make me uncomfortable, and I've done some gnarly things.
So Ned stole your uncomfortable challenge.
Yeah. He actually messaged me about it. I said, mate, I don't care. I don't care. I'm like, you've done some gnarly, uncomfortable things. And the way I say it is he's got a massive platform. It's like people are going to push themselves out of their comfort zone, which is what it's all about.
So good, yeah.
It's just people discovering who they are. I love it. It's amazing that more and more people will be doing it. And for the last 80 months, since the start of 2019, I've done one challenge a month. And some of the uncomfortable states I've been in to like really push myself has been so cool, and to naturally this does happen in your 20s, but I just feel like a completely different person from when I started, and I think that's because I'm putting myself in these wild places and having hard conversations or doing hard things mentally, physically, emotionally, and I'm just really grateful that I have continued it when I had many moments where I didn't have to continue it.
Yeah, I love it. It's been so cool watching it. Like, there's so many unique ones. What's one that the listener right now listening, what's one that is achievable for probably, more so of your everyday person, but one that you've learnt a lot about, you like probably least resistance for biggest gain out of any of the challenges you did? Because I'm sure there's one that you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad, and far out, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah, I think mentally, physically, and emotionally are all different. I think one that's quite physical for everyone, unless you're a professional dancer, I think doing a dance class.
I promised you last time we were on this episode I'd do it, and I fucking haven't done it.
I think it's really cool because it's like anyone can do it, right?
Yeah.
Anyone can do it. Well, relatively speaking, anyone can do it. And I think providing you're not a professional dancer, you will feel uncomfortable, but then that feeling afterwards is always electric. Something I always come back to, one of my favorite ones, and it was number 7, I think it was. So it was really early in my uncomfortable challenges, and it was having a hard conversation with my dad. And I think everyone in our life, like everyone has a conversation that they're putting off or they're not having with their partner, with a friend, with a sibling, with a parent. And I think we only get one shot at this, I believe. And I think the more that you can have those hard conversations, more so sooner rather than later, I think the better off. And my relationship with my dad since I had that conversation has been so different. And I think it's purely because of that conversation.
Just understanding your parents or grandparents, if you're lucky enough to have grandparents around, is so important. I had my dad on my podcast for episode 200. It's been my most downloaded episode this year. And it was beautiful because I always take people on this chronological, and I'm like, most people don't really know that much about, like, I spoke to my dad in depth about what his upbringing was like he grew up a bit more affluent, I guess, than we did. His dad was a really high up radiologist, but he lost a brother to suicide because they had a family separation, and the younger brother, he didn't really have a relationship. So just all these intricacies, and I'm like, that's my dad's life. And it's like you learn, and he's like, I traveled Europe and I fucked up doing this and that. And I'm like, wow, I just learned so much about my dad. But then you learn about yourself, and you also have empathy for like, wow, that's what you went through. And I was speaking to him yesterday. I was like, because I'm like 31 now, and he had me at, I think, like 29 or 30 or 31. And I was like, oh, when we used to go down to the footy, and I was like 6, 7, That's like me in like 5 or 6 years. Imagine like running around with like you're just like me trying to work it out. Like it's quite interesting.
It's a weird thing. I don't know if you've had this moment yet, but I had this moment. I've had this moment with both my mum and my dad separately, where you realise that they're also kids.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I found this out when my grandma died and my mum got the call, just how my mum's reaction, like she's a daughter, you know, and just seeing her in that moment, it was really primal and quite beautiful, but really sad. And then I've had that same moment with my dad, just realising that, this is his first time at this too, and he's still navigating his own stuff, you know. For me, I had a lot more empathy for my parents, because sometimes I've critiqued them for how things turned out, and you know, how there's some areas in my life that I'm not quite happy with, and I can sort of trace them back to some things that happened in my childhood, but I'm like, my parents love me and they support me and they tried their hardest, and no parent's ever going to be perfect, but fuck, my parents tried hard.
Yeah,
you know?
Same with mine. I'm like, the older you get, the more you look back with like, I wish I was a little bit nicer to them at times. But anyway,
I agree.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing, and that's why these conversations are great. If there's anyone out there, you know, younger than us listening, it's like, just go tell your parents you're grateful for them if you're lucky enough to have them around. Ask them about their life. Like, be curious about it. So. Yeah,
and you got to understand that your parents at one point were the same age as you, and they had their own struggles, and they're probably still, you know, because I think this is a generalization, but a lot of the older generation don't have the resources that we have now, and we have so many things at our fingertips, you know, practice gratitude at school now, they're meditating at school now. It's like, that wasn't a thing 20 years ago, you know, so it's really cool to sort of see what's happening with the younger generation, and I think just understanding that a lot of our parents or grandparents didn't have that same resources. Of course.
I'm a big fan of Lael Stone. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a parenting expert. She was like the most downloaded Imperfects podcast of 2023. But I spoke to her and she's like, our like self-beliefs and everything come from like our parents, but we can also change them. If we can build awareness to like, wow, they were just trying their best, but yeah, they got a few things wrong. I can take the good from it. I can find good from other people and build who I want to be. It's it's an interesting way once you start to build that awareness. Let's keep moving through the story. Let's do quick elevator pitch. Com Games, how that was, winning gold. Then the transition into Tokyo. I know Tokyo had a bit of a ups and downs to qualifying. Let's just talk about the actual event, Com Games, winning, what that meant to you, and then Tokyo, what that meant to you.
Yeah, I was 20 years old when the 2018 Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast happened, and I think I had a great preparation. I trained really hard. I did all the things that I was supposed to, and I'm really proud to just do that on home soil. And I think I always dreamt of going to the Olympics and winning a gold medal, and I think that was probably the first moment that I believed that I could. The 2018 Commonwealth Games was like, wow, I just did something in an international event that's quite hard to do. And then
Were you going into that somewhat a favourite, or?
No, I think I was probably maybe fifth.
Okay.
Top five. Yeah, but I definitely wasn't the favourite. And I'm really proud to do that at 20 years old, home soil, in front of my family and friends, and to run to all my mates and my mum and dad. It was just really magical. And I just think it really put me on a trajectory. Like, I'll never forget that I woke up the next day after winning and I changed my phone background to Tokyo 2020. Like, it was just full steam ahead, and I just really wanted to make the Olympics and do really well at the Olympics. And I'll never forget the moment, though. I always say to myself after big events that I don't want to drink that night, because I don't want to numb the feeling. You know, I work really hard for my goals and my dreams, and big major events, whether it be an Australian title in the pros, the Olympic bronze medal, Commonwealth Games gold medal, sometimes at some national events, I just don't drink that night. All my mates are trying to encourage me to drink, and I just refuse to. And I never forget that one moment when I got home. It was about 2 a.m. in the morning after seeing my family and friends after the Commonwealth Games gold, and I sat on my balcony and I just had this beautiful cry, and I was just proud. You know, I feel like I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah,
talking
I'm
about
getting goosebumps hearing
just
you
like,
talk about it.
Just like, what a moment. Like, I was 20 years old. I feel like I was a little kid, you know, and to just do that. I remember watching the Commonwealth Games and Olympics growing up, and just to sit on the balcony in the village.
Just like holding your medal.
And I was just like, what happened, you know? What happened? That was so gnarly. It felt like a dream. And then obviously as I woke up, I changed my phone background, and it was full steam ahead to the Tokyo Olympics. And of course, COVID happened. A number of things happened in the preparation. I actually failed at making the Olympics before COVID hit. And then through luck, because of COVID, I got given my spot, which was it was a weird reality of like your dream coming true. You made the Olympic Games, but also you were given the spot.
You didn't deserve it.
Yeah. And I had that internal dialogue of like, you didn't earn your spot. Like, you don't deserve to be there.
Myself.
I got to go prove myself. And I'm kind of grateful that I did
Yeah.
receive that, because in the sense I trained really, really bloody hard for that Olympic Games. And I actually couldn't throw my left hand because I was injured. I couldn't throw my left hand for 3 months prior, and I was just making sure I was doing every single thing outside of it because I was injured. And the month before the Olympics, I was able to throw it, and then everything was just falling into place. And I fought 4 fights at the Olympics, lost in my 4th fight to the eventual gold medalist. And to stand on the podium, of course, it wasn't the outcome that I wanted. I wanted to be in the middle, but to stand on the podium at the time, I think I was numb. I don't know. As soon as I lost, I went numb for a
Do you
period of time.
lose and then have to fight a bronze medal match, or is it 2/3?
Boxing, yeah. Boxing is one of the only sports where 2 people get bronze medals.
Okay.
Yeah, so once you lose, you're out.
Okay.
And yeah, so I, lost in the semi-final to Andy Cruz Gomez from Cuba, and I kind of went numb. I don't know exactly what it was, but I just, the world was just, I think it was quite intense, and I think I got put into like a hyper fight or flight, and I think I just went into autopilot. It was really strange, and I remember doing interviews and like even touching home soil, and I just felt like I was operating for like a number of months almost.
Wow.
Life was just happening, and don't get me wrong, there was many moments that I was proud, and there was many moments where I was sad, and the whole roller coaster of emotions. People talk about the post-Olympic blues. That all happened, but I don't think I entered my body for probably 6, 7, 8 months. It was really strange, really strange.
That's probably when I spoke to you in the back of your car.
Yeah, probably. The world was just coming at me so quickly, and it's so hard to sort of really unpack what happens when life is just happening, because I think as humans, or for myself, very rarely do we stop and actually just go, I don't know, celebrate our wins. I don't know about that, but just actually just being here and going what does my clothes feel like on my body? What does my ass feel like on this seat right now? I don't do that often, and I have to really catch myself, I have to really catch myself and bring myself back. And as I said, I feel like I was on autopilot for a number of months post that.
Yeah, wow. So then you're back from that for a while. Is I'm a Celeb kind of the next major thing? When does the book come about? Is that...
So that was after I'm a Celeb. So I fought professionally 3 times. So that was 2022.
Yeah, that's right. Because then you went, all right, Olympics is done. Because for anyone listening, I mean, you can probably explain it better, but Olympic boxing and professional boxing, and we spoke about this on the last episode. So if you want a more in-depth analysis, go back to episode 51. But Olympic boxing is a bit different to professional boxing, and it kind of stunts your ability to make all the money and the lucrative deals and the big prize fights. But it also takes away from the fact that you can win Olympic gold medals. But they changed it, right? That you can do both?
Yeah. So both, you can do both, but they are 2 different sports. So it's a weird thing. I think you can do both, but I also think it's like short distance running and long distance running.
Yeah, it's like you're learning how to train all this for one big fight compared to you're trying to fight 5 times over 3 days.
And that's the thing. I think naturally, if I was to try for LA, I think I should have stayed amateur the whole time. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm also not. There's nothing inside of me right now because I'm sort of just deciding what's next. But I turned professional after Tokyo, had 3 fights. Won them all. It was really cool. My second one went 10 rounds at the Horde Pavilion. It was really cool moment. And then I'm a Celebrity was pretty much a few months after my last one, maybe 6 months after my last one. And then obviously come back to...
Yeah, tell me about I'm a Celebrity quickly, and then, because I read some media stuff before that, I mean, how much you want to go into it? People can go online and find, whatever they want to look up, but it sounds like there was some shitty stuff in the relationship going on before, and threats. I'm going to, how hard was it in your head going to I'm a Celebrity with is something going to be happening at home, or was that...
it's kind of weird.
Probably trying to cut it out of your mind completely.
Yeah, no, it's part of the story, right? I think we learn a lot from these moments, and I don't know, it's so weird to get asked to do a TV show, right? I'm there's something internally that still thinks I'm just a nobody, you know? I know exactly who, my whole life, and I was a boy watching shows like Dancing with the Stars, and I'm a Celebrity, so it's really weird to get asked to go on a show where Peter Hellier, someone who I watched on Rove, I'm like, what the hell? And I was sleeping next to this guy. So I was pinching myself, and I obviously there was stuff going on at home, but I kind of forgot about it. Not gonna lie, because you're off your phone. Off your phone, you're sort of just existing. you're also semi-dying. Like, they're not feeding you that much.
Yeah, so
It
they're
is
trying
part
to-
of the show, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm losing heaps of weight. I'm in this wild experience where I'm learning from these people who are just really good at what they do. Liz Ellis, you know, one of the best netballs we've ever had. Like, I'm learning from all these people, which was so cool. And then
And then you come second on the show.
Second on
Your
the show,
dad
which was
flies
wild.
over
It
with
was
you
so
to
sick.
end the series.
And to be honest, I kind of, as I said, I kind of forgot about things back home. And then obviously my nephew was born in that time that I was on the
This is
show.
part of the story that
Yeah.
annoys me and saddens me more than
Yeah,
anything.
it was, and you know, my mum was going through health struggles with breast cancer and stuff like that, and
The last
and then
thing you fucking deserve. to
yeah,
deal
like
with.
just come home, and obviously was arrested at Sydney Airport, and that was like a pretty wild moment of like your body takes over, you know, like you're just, you know what to say, but it kind of was just like
Well, it's just like
glazed over.
And
It's,
for anyone who doesn't know the story, false allegations of domestic violence against your ex-partner, and it's like, that's such a massive fucking thing, especially for a boxer. So, like, I can imagine there's so much media around it, off the plane, arrested, unlike anyone else would be in any circumstances similar to yours. It's just like, and it's so sad for domestic abuse victims, because stories like that and false allegations just make other women not want to speak up. It's just like the worst situation. When I was seeing that, I was like, oh, like, it must have been so hard for you, man. And then, like, I think I read you go home to see your family, but I got second in this show, I've got my new nephew, and you've on the front page of the paper saying you're like a woman basher. It's like so fucked.
yeah, it was a very gnarly time, but also as well, like I think when you're going through it, it's really intense, and like there's some videos that I've got on my phone of like that I was just recording to myself, you know, and I was just like, well, like if I watch them now, I'm like, whoa, like I have, but I'm also like, I learned so much about who I am, and you know, like even people in my inner circle and what they were saying to do, and I was just like, no, we don't lower our standards in these moments. These are the moments where we show who we are and we be who we want to be. If we don't feel like we're that person, this is how you collect evidence that you are that person, you know. And I never lowered my standards. I never kicked someone while they were down. I helped my parents more than anything in that moment. I consoled, is that the word?
Yeah.
I like was there for them in that moment. They were obviously struggling. You know, you imagine what
Them going to the local shops or something, and
they're going through worse than I am, because I had a little bit of exposure to fame before
Yeah,
that, you know, where it's like they had no exposure to it, and then they're going to, you know, a shopping center, and it's a small area and everyone kind of talks, and so like they're going through it probably harder than I was, and I, you know, just I'm really proud of that moment. I think I learnt a lot. People stood up and helped me in that moment, and you know, I don't hold any malice to anyone in that moment. I don't. I think there's something inside of me that understands that we all have wounds. We all have, and I wrote heaps of poems about this, and I think I wrote a poem around like we all have wounds, and I think a lot of us are operating from those wounds sometimes, and I think I have empathy, you know, I have compassion, because I think that's the only way that you don't solve it through aggression, you don't solve it through hate, you don't solve it through, like there's this beautiful woman called D.R. Khan, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she is a Muslim journalist. She's done a few series, which is one of her series called The White Right. She spent time on the front line with white supremacists. Yeah, wow. Obviously people that she does not agree with at all. She thinks that their beliefs are abhorrent and bad and disgusting, but through the process of understanding and listening and showing real empathy, you know, and actually treating them like humans, through the process of that, she actually, the main guy of the white supremacist group left 2 years later because they built this relationship, right? And I think that for me just shows that like real change comes from compassion and empathy. It doesn't come from aggression or hatred. And I think only when you can show compassion, even when the world is trying to turn you to show aggression or to lower your standards, I think you just play into the same results that are happening. You know, if you want real change, you have to be better and you have to take the punches and you have to roll with it, right? And I think I learned that in that moment.
yeah, thank you for sharing that, because so many people are, holding on to grudges, holding on to resentment. And my dad has this beautiful saying. He says, forgiveness clears the mind, but no, wait. Sorry. Apologies clear the mind, but forgiveness cleanses the soul. And I'm like, it's so true. It's like, if you can forgive and actually forgive and go, I completely disagree with what you did to me, but I have empathy that you did it. There's a reason, you know, your life has led up to the moment that you felt like that was okay to do. I have empathy for it.
It's also like it's a weird thing, right? I've really gone on this weird trajectory mentally of like, there's no real right or wrong in this universe. You know, the facts of the reality are just happening, you know, and I think we project our own belief of what's right or wrong to it. And I think when we can recognize that, I think we can realize that like, hey, it's just our own perception of our reality and we can change it at any moment, right? And if we are aware enough, it's different for a kid because they're operating and they've got parents that they rely on. Like we're adults now. Like I can change my perception of my reality right now. And I can, even if I'm in the shittest environment, I can, of course there is different if you're in war and stuff like that, famine, different story, right? But I think for anyone living in Australia, most people, not anyone, but most people living in Australia, you can change your perception of your reality at any point, right?
And I think having that ability to be open-minded, to be challenged by something and not dig your heels in, but get curious, not furious. Why are they saying that? Oh, well, they think that for a reason. How did they get to thinking that and I got to thinking this? And you start to go on this spiral of curiosity rather than digging your heels in and trying to defend your right reality.
You know what I've thought about? Like, and I've realized this inside myself. This isn't an observation. This is an observation of self. Like, sometimes I'm addicted to the negative feelings, you know, because I've felt them for so long. If my life is going too good for too long, there's something inside of me that kind of wants to blow it up because I'm so used to the shit feelings. I'm used to them and they ground me and then they make me do things. And
they're familiar.
it's interesting. And I think when my life is going really good for too long, there's something inside of me that's like panicking because I'm like, it's going to come crashing and burning. And then I usually just create the crashing and burning, right? It's really fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We just like kind of thrive. Some people like thrive in the chaos. That's why you kind of like sometimes bring it back into question. Something that I struggle with a lot with, and I really write about it in my book, and I know you touch on it in yours too, is this identity of wrapping your whole, or this idea of wrapping your whole identity in your career, your achievements, and external validation. That's like the main theme of the start of my book. But then I got, and I know you know Ben Crow as well, he spoke at an Olympics training camp for surfing, the first ever one that I got to go to. And he said something that like completely, him and my psychologist from Surfing Australia like changed my whole trajectory. They're like, well, he initially said was like, pro surfing is what you guys do, but it's not who you are. Like your values and your life philosophy are who you are. So go find your life philosophy. And I don't reckon any other surfer did it, but I went that night and I was like, fuck, my life philosophy is through hard work, dedication and passion, being a positive influence on my peers and younger generation. So I was like, whatever I do, as long as I'm working hard and I'm dedicated and passionate, and it's something that, you know, is going to be a positive influence on my peers and younger generation, I can do anything. But that's my guiding philosophy. But then as well, I got challenged and got told, don't base your self-worth and identity on your career and achievements because you're going to not reach the goals that you set quite often. Base it on what your personal values are. You're in control of that every day. What's your take on that and your experience with that world of identity?
Yeah, I think, you know, I've listened to Ben Crow a number of times, but I think a lot of like Ben Crow's statements become true through experience, right? And I think I think I chased the Olympic gold medal or the Olympic success so hard for so long because I thought it was going to change something about myself. I think I was inspired, no doubt, by Grant Hackett in 2004 when I was 7 and other Olympic athletes. But I do think that there was a moment where I was watching my parents watch the TV and I was like, I want them to look at me like that, you know? And I think there was an internal belief as well as a cocktail of other things inspiring me to go do that. But I think there was a sense of, I really wanted my parents to look at me the way that they looked at these famous people, these amazing athletes, right? And then I got to a level of success, you know? I got to a bronze medal and I remember sitting in quarantine and I had the medal on. And I was looking in the mirror and I had tears rolling down my face. I was like, I'm still fucking unhappy. Like, I don't know. It sort of planted something in my head that I haven't shaken. And I think the reason why I probably didn't get success at Paris was I think there's something from 2021 planted in my head going like, an Olympic gold medal isn't going to change how you feel about yourself. Nothing outside of yourself really changes how you feel about yourself. It's all about how you feel and how you talk to yourself. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got to reframe what success is. Like, I do find out who I am through a process, an Olympic gold medal or another massive goal or something like that. You absolutely find out who you are. But I think we always feel better when we do things for other people, and I haven't transitioned to this completely at all. Like, but I always feel better when you do a talk and you have someone come up to you and you can see that you've impacted them in some beautiful way, and you feel good, right? You feel like you're actually doing something useful to the world, not achieving or accumulating resources or getting money or like, everyone validating you. This is all external stuff that means nothing, It's all like shallow and meaningless in some sense. Like, it's like instant gratification versus reserved gratification. Like that, everyone praising you is instant, but reserved gratification is long-standing impact. And as I said, I haven't fully transitioned to that, but I think 2021 was a point in my life where I realized I don't know if I'm ever going to fully be happy. Happiness is a shit word, but be joyful or content, in an accumulation of something else.
Because you can always have more.
You can always
have bigger. You can always have better.
Sure.
It's when you can stop and look and go, oh, look what I've already got. And
I remember looking at I don't know Kelly Slater. You actually might know him, but I don't know Kelly Slater. But like I look at someone like a Kelly Slater and I feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for him because it's like, there's no doubt that he loves surfing. There is absolutely no doubt, right? But to sort of still feel like he's got to prove himself after having such a successful career, it's like, for me, that sounds like a prison because it sounds like he hasn't done enough to himself and gone, maybe I am good enough now. He still feels like he's got to prove himself, or this competitive beast, or, it's like, he's obviously amazing at what he does, but I'm like, imagine, I don't know how many things he would have had to not do or miss out on, or I don't know, the impact maybe to his kids. I don't know what type of dad he is, but like, I don't know. I just think like that sounds like a prison. It sounds like a mental prison, and I view my life in the future, and I don't want to be that.
Yeah. It's an interesting one when it becomes everything for us, and I am friends with. I wouldn't say friends with Kelly. I've got his number. I've been back and forth texting him for like the last 4 years about coming on the podcast. So I will eventually get to have a chat with him now that he is retired from competing and does spend a lot of time on the Gold Coast, just down the road from me. But yeah, his career is an interesting one because when you like look at the time span of his, he like killed it, 6 world titles, and then he took a bit of time off and did go away for a couple years. But potentially he was like, I mean, I haven't spoken to him in depth to fully understand this, but potentially he was like, unhappy and being like, what, I'm happy when I'm traveling the world surfing, competing.
Yes.
So then he went back to it and then maybe held on to it for a bit too long and like kind of started whittling from going for the world titles to kind of just filling up the spaces. But yeah, it's an interesting one. He's traveling the world surfing. He just had a new kid, so he's like on this next little chapter,
And I think,
also, I think he doesn't get the recognition of being the best athlete on the list
he's
of the best.
He's in the top 5, top 10.
I think he's in the like top 5.
Yeah.
Like when you like compare to like Jordan, Woods,
hell yeah,
all these people, it's like he's had and surfing's the most fucking unpredictable sport to try and win world titles, and he's done it for 11 world titles, double the next guy. And over a span of like 20 years.
I think Ben Crowe has this saying, it's like life's biggest truism is life isn't about us as individuals, it's about the impact we can have on others. And I think most people realise that probably when they have kids, right? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Kelly Slater would have inspired a massive generation of younger surfers. I don't know if that was his intention, but he obviously did that through him just doing the surfing, right? But I think he probably, you'd imagine, I obviously don't know, you have to ask him, but like, when he's a parent now, like you would imagine what it's like being of service to someone else. Like that's why I think religion is quite beautiful. I'm not religious at all, but like you're bending your knee to something bigger than yourself. And I think that is just humbling and beautiful, and you're of service of something else. And right now, I think the whole world, Western world anyway, is just so egocentric and focused on self and my happiness. And if they're not meeting my needs, then they're not the one. And it's like, it's all I. And I'm guilty of this. I'm so guilty of this. I can recognize it because it's going on inside of me too. But I don't know. I can't wait to be a dad and be of service to someone else. Like I think that is probably true happiness.
Yeah, I love just watching you ponder on that. I'm the same. I've got a great partner right now. We've just done our partner visa. She's Brazilian, and that's on the, next 12 to 18 months sort of plans for us, just still practicing as much as possible, and we'll get there eventually. But there's something you said there that I want to go into Paris Olympics, because I think it's really nice to see how you reacted after you didn't achieve what you wanted, because I think it comes back to this conversation we're talking about of being true to yourself and being like, sure, I didn't achieve what I wanted, but it's not going to define me. But before we go there, I just want to quickly touch on this idea, and you'll relate to this so much as an athlete, and I reflect on this so much, is you climb this mountain of achievement thinking, once I get to the top of this mountain, life's going to be good. And don't get me wrong, I didn't win a fucking medal at the Olympics. I was never a world champion. I never made the top 30 in the world. But I was in the top 100 in the world. So on the scale of millions of surfers, I was very close to the tip of the peak. But I was looking around and I was like, I'm not that happy. And then I read a book called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest, and started to read a lot of this self-development and started to learn psychologically the impact of service to others. And it was like I got to the top of this mountain, I was like, this isn't the one I want to be climbing. I looked over to this other one that's going up into the clouds that never ends, and that's a mountain of service to others. And that's that idea of like, it's about the journey, not the destination. And I reflect on my surfing career, and you know, still being a top athlete would feel this. Like, when you're a top athlete, everyone around you is trying to help you achieve your goal, is everyone's goal. You retire from your sport and you like look around and it's like, fuck, no one really cares anymore. And it's like quite interesting realizing that while you're in the sport, and that's where, and I see you do it so much, of like bringing people up around you, and it's not just about the sport, it's about inspiring people to, you know, break stereotypes, you know, with you wearing your dress and your dancing and all this stuff. I think it's really cool to show that it's not just boxing. You want to comment on that before we go into the Olympics?
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I'm going through that right now, of like, I had this weird realization a couple of months ago in my boxing career. So I'm back professional. I had one fight since the Olympic Games. I obviously love fighting. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's primal. It's beautiful. It's instinctual.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to just experience that for me anyway. And I had this weird realization after the fight, going like, it was a couple of months after the fight, but I was like, there is not one fighter in the industry that I wish to be like, you know? And then I started thinking about role models and who do I want to be like? And I love the sport of boxing, but I'm like, I think it is just so egocentric and self-centered, and I don't know, I think that Tokyo Olympics is just planted in my head, and it's grown, realizing that like, I always find out more and more about myself through goals and ambitions and stuff like that, but it's not that fulfilling. You might get to a level of success, and probably the exact same as you get to a level of like, I'm living my dream that I thought was my dream, and it's like, I don't know if this is actually what I want, you know, and I'm got to be really careful, because I think if there's young people listening to this, it's like, do the big thing, do the hard thing.
But do it consciously, to be grateful while you're going through it, not resentful and the victim through it.
100%. Do the thing. That's because you will always find out who you are through these processes. And if it's not the right path, you will then alter the path. But if you're just not doing the thing, then you will be on that forever. And I think I'm really grateful that I have done this. But I feel like I'm in this weird transition now where I'm like, I don't know exactly what's next. You know, I'm not sure if it's boxing, if it's out of boxing. I'm not sure. And I am excited for that. Nervous, of course, because your identity is consumed with what you've done for 20 years. But also, like, it's exciting. We are bound by nothing. We are only bound by our own limitations, especially because I don't have kids. You know, I don't have any real responsibility, you know. And I think before that, it's like, hey, fuck, maybe see what else is out there. Be of service, or, you know, do something else, you know, like... I don't know. I feel like I'm in that right now, and I haven't made any decisions, but I'm very, very conscious of it.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes. Like, obviously, my older brother's Fisher, the DJ, and he does like 3-4 months in Europe every year with my sister, and I haven't gone for the last 2 years, and I'm like, I'm gonna have kids in the next couple of years, hopefully, and am I gonna look back and be like, fuck, I had these years that I could have gone and had this amazing experience, but I also am like, I've built something that I'm super proud of, but it's like this constant like, am I utilizing these moments to the best of my ability? 3 last things. We're going to talk about Paris, your book, and Dancing with the Stars, and I guess what's next. Does the book come before Paris?
Yeah, so the book...
So yeah, when did the book did the publisher come to you? Because I can probably talk on this to you.
Yeah.
Most people can. I know that bloody process. And you wrote it yourself, right?
Yeah, well, I had someone help me.
You had a bit
I had a bit of help. Yeah, just which is
I spoke
really
to Ned
useful.
about that too, and he
Yeah.
I was going to, and I got quoted $100,000 from someone, and I was like, I'll write it myself.
Yeah. I'm really grateful because don't get me wrong, I've got 1,000 different
Well,
thoughts.
that's what I know. You're really good at writing stuff. When I read it, I thought you wrote it. I was
Thank
like,
you.
"How
I'll
do
take
do
that.
it?"
I'll take that. The guy nailed it. Like I remember reading the draft. And I'm going like, I would have put that there, and then the next page is there. I'm like, oh, he knows. He knows. This guy's really creative. So he did an amazing job. Shout out to Shannon Malloy. But yeah, that sort of come maybe I want to say 6-7 months prior to the Olympics.
Okay.
And then obviously the process.
Publisher approached you and said,
Approached
"Hey, do you
you,
have
yeah.
an idea for a book?"
Yeah.
Was that after I'm a Celebrity?
Yeah, after I'm a Celeb, probably towards. So I'm a Celeb was 2023 early.
Yep.
And then that happened end of 2023, I want to say.
Okay, wow.
Which was, really, really cool to sort of, to have someone come to you and
How
go.
reflective is it to go back through your life?
It was actually I thought it was therapeutic.
Yeah, me too.
Like very rarely do you actually stop. And that's why I always love podcasts because it's like every time, I realize a little bit more about my story because you don't actually
Get a chance.
you got to understand that like 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, humans just sat around campfires or, and just spoke and talked and pondered and looked at the stars. We don't do that anymore. We're so consumed with things and distracting ourselves from this weird reality that we're in. But it's like, it's so nice to actually be introspective and reflect on story. And it was really cool, that process of writing the book with the help of Shannon. And then it was released pretty much at the Olympics while I was at the Olympics.
Yeah,
so
that's smart. How was the process? It's a pretty hectic process, hey? Like the editing and then the back and forth. And
it was
like,
intense.
I mean, they're like promoting it part right now, and it's just like, fuck. How scary is it as well that like people like you like me as well? There's a lot of your story out there, but a book just feels like an extra layer of like.
Mine was more like just knowing that I evolve my beliefs. And one thing I love most about myself is the fact that you could say something that is contrary to one of my core beliefs and I could change my mind on that instantly because I'm not locked to my beliefs. I challenge things and I question things inside myself and I realize this is what means true to me now. But in 5 years' time, it probably might not relate to me anymore. And I think the fear of writing the book is just, it's stamped. It's there.
That's kind of what I'm like.
Your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Your thoughts on where you are in your life. And I'm like, I could read that in 10 years' time and go like, whoa, what is that? Because I remember like, even probably if I watched this podcast that we did 3 years ago, I'd go, oh, what did I say in that? And I'm sure you're the same, right? Your first few podcasts, you're like, Jesus Christ. Like, but also.
Got to get in the arena.
That's exactly right. And it's out there and I'm really grateful. I said to myself, I didn't read the audio book, but I said to myself that...
You said you started it. And
it's hard. It's really hard. And I'm quite dyslexic. And I said that if I ever write an autobiography at the end of my career at 40, 50, then I'll read it. And I'll make that promise that I'll read it. So hopefully in the next 20 years I get better at reading.
It's a fucking hard thing. Maybe I'll have someone AI your own voice by then.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
So let's talk about the Olympics now. Your book's coming out at the same time. Pretty big hype around you. There was a lot of media hype around you going into Paris Olympics. You were kind of one of the faces of it for Australia. Obviously, big hopes for gold medal, bronze at the previous one. This media stuff's been come out the year before. The comeback story is like the perfect storm for you to do amazingly, but not all things go to plan. So talk me through Paris.
Yeah, it was. I've thought about this so much. Like, is it the realization in the quarantine after the Tokyo bronze, like sitting there, did that plan in my head? And I don't know, like, don't get me wrong, I prepared hard and I did the things that I was supposed to do. But I am super aware that at that level, the mind is... Novak Djokovic has this beautiful quote, the difference between the first-ranked player and the 100th ranked player in the world is what's between their ears. And I think there was like a little mental shift inside myself over the 3 years between the Olympics. And I don't know if I'm hyper conscious of it, but I am conscious that it was so weird to experience that fight, and I was expected to beat that guy. He's a good fighter. It was a bit awkward, but I was expected to beat him.
In the first round,
and it's almost like I just wasn't even in my body.
It happens like that.
It was, and I could metaphorically feel inside that ring as the fight was going. I could see the gold medal, and it was just falling out of my hands. Like,
Yeah, wow.
it felt like I was just losing grip
You're
of it.
trying. I remember watching it too. You could see that just things weren't going your
I
way.
was just
and you
like-
tried something, and then it just kept.
It
You're
just,
like, oh my god!
it was like there
feel
was
you're
just
in a-
falling out of my.
It probably feels like you're in a dream where you can't run.
Can't
you're trying
run.
to run away from someone. You're like, fuck.
It was like a sleep paralysis. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like, and it was really fascinating to experience that. But also as well, like, I started the journey at the age of 9. I didn't realize it was going to take me to all these places around the world and be on major success, the Com Games, and semi success at the Olympics. And I didn't think that I would get to these places at the age of 9, but I started the journey as an insecure little boy, and I finished the journey of my second Olympic Games as with a solid relationship with myself. And I think that is because of boxing and the places it took me and the things I learnt about myself. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I think if you are a young person in your teenage years and you realize that your internal voice isn't that strong, it's like, go on the journey of self-discovery, because it's the longest relationship we ever have is the one with ourselves. And I would argue that most people don't even have a good one, and it breaks my heart. And I'm really grateful that not every day since the Olympics is my relationship with myself good. Sometimes I blow my life up. Sometimes it's not going good. But I would say overall, more often than not, it's a lot better than what it was when I was younger. And I'm really proud of that. I did the work. I'm doing the work. I'm doing the work. And each day you're just evolving a little bit more and you're finding out more. And I think boxing has been a massive part of that.
It's so beautiful to see you reflect on that. And I just want to talk real quickly about the interview you did that was so widely seen after, your absolute heartbreak of setting this big goal, publicly announcing, I'm going to win the gold. And then to not just like fall short, but to fall at the first hurdle, but then to get up the next day and do that interview and wear your heart on your sleeve and be like, fuck, it doesn't go to plan.
Yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still breathing. It's all good. That was such, I think, a special thing. Like, one of the most special moments of that Olympics didn't come from the gold medal. It came from the failure, but the strength that you showed after that.
Yeah, I think, athletes, like anyone who's a high performer, I think
You lose way more than you win.
we put so much pressure on ourselves, and I think it is just part of the process. Like, it's heartbreaking, and if I could wake up tomorrow being an Olympic gold medalist, I probably would be, right? Like, it's what I've dreamt of from a young kid. But I'm also like, I put myself in the arena, and the reality is I had so many people in my life say that maybe I shouldn't go to the second Olympics. Like, just put your hat on that bronze medal and you'll be a bronze medalist for the rest of your life, But I'm like, I'll never be like that. I'd rather put myself in there and fail trying than to just go, that's what I did. Like, screw that. Like, I remember I said this at the Tokyo Olympics at 23, 24 years old. I said, this is the highlight of my life so far, but this won't be the highlight of my life, because we are just always evolving. And if you're resting your laurels on something you did when you were 20, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you got so much more left.
Yeah, seriously.
And I there's so many things I'm looking forward to in my life. So I'm excited for that. Like, I can't wait to be a dad one day.
Yeah.
I can't wait, hopefully, to be a grandparent. Like, how mad would that be?
I know, watching my parents become grandparents at the moment, I'm like, oh, it's so bloody
gnarly.
cool. Yeah,
So sick.
I love that. Let's now talk about this last chapter, the last year. You're obviously very public about enjoying dancing. We spoke about it on this podcast. How dancing was the start? I mean, you're the perfect person from it. Is it over yet on TV?
Yes, it's over. So I made
Okay.
the semis.
Okay,
It was.
so I'm not to the TV.
I
I should have done a little bit
I
of
don't
research.
actually watch TV, so
Yeah, neither. I don't have a TV. I have for like 4 years.
it was like such a gnarly opportunity to get to do that, right? Like, I remember watching that as a young kid. I remember watching Danny Green do it. I think he got silver, or like he comes second. So it was really cool. I said to my manager, there's a handful of TV shows I'll do, and that was at the top of the list. So I'm really grateful they gave me the opportunity to do it, to get paid to learn how to dance. Thinking, how lucky am I? This is the best. And I absolutely loved it. My partner, Siobhan, helped me out so much, and she's a bloody legend. Like, we got on like a house on fire. And to just share that and do that, with an amazing woman like Siobhan, it was so cool. So it was amazing, and there's probably only one or two other shows that I'll do, but,
Do you want to mention it?
I'd love to
Race?
do Amazing Race.
Me
Imagine
too.
doing that with a family
Dude,
member.
I almost got it on
man.
the celebrity one that was just
Be so
on. I was
sick.
like, last minute, someone pulled out and they asked me and my friend Alex Hayes, we're going to
Be so
do
sick.
it. And then it was out of us and another two, and the other two got us.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like my other friends like Luke and Sassy Scott were on there, and I was
so
like,
cool,
oh,
man.
they're so fun.
So like, the only thing is that I worry if I did that with a family member, a lot of them aren't politically correct and they would say the wrong thing about it. Just be careful. Don't ruin your life.
Bite your tongue.
That and probably SAS, you know.
Oh,
I think
surely
SAS
you're shooing to get a go on
SAS would be so much fun. Like it'd be
That's me
so
too.
intense because I'm a small man. Like and I have to
but
carry some pretty hectic things and
But it's good psychologically. I reckon you're like me. It's like, it'd be sick to do it, but I reckon I'd do it right.
oh,
But
I'd
then
love to
get
do it.
put
Yeah,
in
yeah. You
place.
get to it, just get absolutely humbled. That's the best.
Shout out SAS if you're watching. Me
Yeah,
and Harry
yeah,
will
yeah.
come and have a go. Oh man, this has been so much fun. Lastly, I just want to chat about what's next, like what's coming up. I know you got Sydney Marathon next week. This potty won't come out until after that. But yeah, and how old are you now?
28, just turned 28, yeah.
So much life ahead of you. Boxing, still chasing that professionally. More reality TV shows. If Amazon, Amazing Race or SAS hit you up. But yeah, what is next? Because I feel like we've touched on it. You are excited about other parts of your life, you know, becoming a father, other experiences. We touched on before we jumped on air that as an athlete, as a young professional athlete, you have to sacrifice so much and it's all worth it, absolutely. But there is a lot of experiences that you don't get to do. You're saying you want to go travel around Europe by yourself. Like there's all these things that absolutely worth every sacrifice. But what are those things that you sacrifice that you can't wait to do post boxing?
Yeah, I'm in this weird little moment of my life just noticing like I think I wrote something about this. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was around like a lot of my life I fought to prove myself. I wanted men around me to stop questioning my masculinity as I feel like my manhood always got questioned from a young age because I'm quite soft by nature. So then I created this beast who's competitive and who become relatively good at something, right? That's quite physical, that men respect,
literally.
right? Men respect. And I think I got to a level of success and I think I'm like, I'm caring about these men's approval that I don't actually want to be like. Like, I don't want to be like a lot of the men that I was really caring about. And I'm in this transition now where I'm like, I'll always box. Like, it's a massive part of what I love to do. I love combat. I've been doing jiu-jitsu lately, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and
MMA.
just like, I think I'm in this, I'll always do it because I love it. But I don't know if I have that competitive beast in me as much anymore. And maybe that will transition. And maybe this is just a season. I'm not sure. I've been doing it for 20 years. But I'm just noticing that I'm doing it for love right now. And right now, there's no real ego inside of me that goes, no, you want to be good. You want to be the best.
Sometimes you
know?
kind of need to be competitive. It's a weird thing.
It's boxing,
I
more
love
combat
it.
more than
You're
anything.
better
You got to
than
be
anything.
like, you got to be a beast. You got to be savage. You know, I've heard Mike Tyson. He articulates it better than anyone. You got to be an animal. You know, you have to like be ferocious. And I don't know if that's getting me closer to the man that I want to be. And I'm really contemplating what's next. So I'm not really sure right now, but I'm really, really thinking about it hardly.
No, thank you for sharing that. I feel at the end of my career, once I'd started the Good Human Factory and started really trying to live this life of empathy and gratitude and mindfulness and kindness. But then the last 2 or 3 years of my competitive career, I'd lose and I'd kind of like, more important. Like things like it's not the end of the world. But then because I didn't care, I feel like maybe I lost that competitive edge.
Yeah.
So it was this weird balance. That's why I'm like with athletes, like we've kind of touched on, don't give up in the extremes. Enjoy these values, but find your balance. Like, I haven't worked out the perfect form. I don't think anyone ever will, but yeah, trying to still enjoy and stop and smell the roses while you're still, you know, trudging through hell to get to this big goal.
It's like a weird thing because it's like something that I think a lot of us struggle to do is sit back and smell the roses while you're on the journey. But then at the end of the journey, you realize the journey was the best part. It's a weird paradox, right? Like, how good was it? But I don't know. I think I'll always do combat because I do think that it's really important because I've thought of this. This is one of the last things I'll say, but I thought of this a lot that I was an insecure little boy who was scared to be soft. So then I created this strong exterior, which I'm really grateful I did because I think in that, it allowed me the courage to be more myself later in my life, which I'm really grateful for. So I'll always do combat because it makes me feel strong.
Confidence.
It makes me feel confident inside myself so then I can be myself. And I think if there's any young people listening to this, boy or girl, it's like, go to a combat sport or go do something that's challenging. You know, go do something where you're humbled all the time. Surfing's a beautiful thing because you're humbled by Mother Nature all the time, right? And I think that is beautiful. And I don't know, I encourage anyone to do hard things that are physically hard, that you're getting humbled by nature or something else all the time because you always realize that's where you find out who you are, which is really nice.
And then on top of all of that, you're just spinning on a rock through the middle of
Yeah,
space. And
mate, making
you've
it
been
all
a
up.
cosmic fluke of every person in your family history has like not been affected by the bloody droughts, the floods, the famine, the disease.
And you're here
you've
right
made it.
now. You're here right now.
And get to experience this weird thing that's life, so
Yeah.
go live it. But man, this has been an amazing second chat, way better than our first one. So, yeah, I do finish the podcast with the same question for everyone. I wonder if you remember what it was from the first one.
No.
Good.
So many punches in my head.
See, too many punches in the head. But I always ask everyone, what does being a good human mean to Harry Garside?
Ooh.
I listened to your episode before, so I know your first answer.
Yeah, it would have changed a lot, I think, in the 3 years. But I think being a good human, it's like something I'm not doing, but putting other people before myself. But I'm trying to transition to that. Yeah. I think that's probably a key to like successful relationships. I don't really know what it is because I haven't been in one, but like I would argue that it's when they're of service to each other, and then they're putting their life first, but they're always thinking about each other and putting them in their. So I think being of service to other people is
So
being
empathy. I love that. Do you want to know what you answered last time?
Yeah, hit me.
You said being authentically you.
Oh, yeah.
Still I'm sure you
Yeah,
agree
yeah,
with that, being
yeah.
authentically you, and
Yeah.
hopefully
I just-
authentically you means being of service to others.
Yeah. But I think you probably become a good human because you inspired other people to be themselves. But I think hopefully everyone can be authentic.
Yeah.
Have the courage to be authentic because it's hard. It's really hard.
I love that. Well, I'm going to leave in the show notes your book link, your social media. Very easy to find. An absolute Aussie legend of the last decade when it comes to your sporting achievements. But the way that you stood up through and stayed true to yourself through the legal things that you went through, I think is just an absolute testament to the character that you are. And very excited to see where the future goes. Obviously, you're going to be an amazing dad one day. You got a partner? No.
Nah.
Single. Get in
Yeah.
contact. But no, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to continue our friendship. Hopefully you like my book. And
Yes, sir.
thanks so much for jumping on Good Humans.
My man. Thanks, brother.